I am currently trapped in a vegetative state in my original world, yet I ended up tying the knot with Victoria from the Sterling family, all because I accidentally got her pregnant. When everyone expected me to fight to hold onto my status as her husband, I made a firm decision to leave because of a birthday wish my daughter made. I handed the divorce papers to Victoria, and she just looked at me like I was some random stranger. During our 5-year marriage, we never shared a bed. Since our wedding day, we slept apart and barely ate together. Still, she acted like a loving wife in public, flaunting our supposed love. I worked as a legal advisor at the Sterling Corporation, while Victoria was the heiress. In reality, I was just the typical son-in-law living with a wealthy family. But our marriage wasn't because the Sterling family owed my family a big favor, nor was it out of deep love or any parental arrangement. It was just a mistake. Because of that, I had to put up with cold stares from my father-in-law and brother-in-law. They treated me like a stray dog they didn't want to feed, but I endured it all until today. Because of that mistake, Victoria's eyes were icy and distant as she calmly said, "Caleb, do you really think I'd never divorce you?" Bringing up personal matters during work hours wasn't cool. Now she slapped me with a $2,000 fine. She was sure I wasn't serious about the divorce and was just trying to pressure her. Her detached look reminded me of that afternoon long ago, 3 months into my job. My boss had targeted me multiple times because I unknowingly took a position he wanted for his own candidate. He tore into me over differences in my writing style. Frustrated, I headed to the company courtyard's corner to smoke. That's where I met Victoria. She was gorgeous in a tight black dress, her hair gently swaying in the breeze. Her features were fresh and elegant, red lips under a high nose and eyes like spring pools beneath thick lashes. As I walked closer, I caught a faint floral scent. Despite her beauty, she was crying against the wall. I took a deep breath and impulsively patted her shoulder. Startled, she looked up with teary eyes. I felt a strong connection and asked, "Did you get scolded too?" "Let me tell you, the higher-ups here are all clueless. Why get mad at idiots?" She frowned and asked, "Are they all like this?" "Yeah, let me break it down," I replied. I smoked while naming and cursing all the leaders I knew for 10 minutes, venting my anger. Then I added, "If the company keeps running like this, it's doomed. Don't be sad, curse them too. Every employee vents about their boss. You'll feel better. If not, lean on my shoulder." Surprisingly, she leaned on me, finding some comfort. Her hair brushed my cheek, and I could feel her breathing slow down. My heart raced like it had been zapped with electricity. It felt like a perfect afternoon until she stood up, smiled, and pointed to my badge, saying, "Caleb, right? Slacking off and smoking during work hours. That's a $2,000 fine." Later, I found out she was crying because of Julian, but by then, I was already head over heels for her. Victoria never liked me from the start, it was always Julian. So I didn't bother arguing. "Find me a way to let her go," I said. "Victoria, I want a divorce ASAP." Victoria finally glanced at the papers and said, "Caleb, if you're going to trick me, at least make it a real divorce agreement with proper compensation." She didn't realize the amount matched what her father once offered to make me leave her. But I stayed because I am a transmigrator on a mission to wake up from this vegetative state. After meeting her, the system assigned me the mission, marry Victoria and have a child. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't warm her heart. We have no future. This money is just belated compensation. I don't want to argue. The $50 million in the agreement is negotiable for the Sterling family and a fortune for me, enough for a luxurious life. Victoria stood up, looking at me disdainfully in her fancy designer chiffon dress, and sneered, "You didn't even mention our daughter's custody. What, you don't want your precious kid anymore?" I gave a faint smile. No. I used to love Sophie so much. As an orphan since childhood with no parents or siblings, only my shadow kept me company. I didn't understand the meaning of family until I first held Sophie in my arms. Seeing her tiny face and feeling her warmth melted my heart. This feeling filled a void in my soul, completing a missing part of me. Every smile and glance from her brought immense happiness, making me feel like I finally had a family, someone worth protecting with my life. I gave all the affection I lacked in my childhood to Sophie. I was incredibly protective of her since she was my only blood relative. If I didn't cherish her, who would? But Victoria had no feelings for Sophie since Sophie was an unexpected pregnancy. Victoria's contempt for me extended to her. When the doctor placed Sophie beside her after birth, she merely glanced and turned away, saying, "She looks like Caleb." Then she left Sophie for me to take care of. Her mother didn't love her either, so I played both father and mother. People say daughters are like little jackets to their fathers. I never received familial love and wouldn't let my daughter miss out either. For 5 years, I poured all my patience and love into every stage of her growth. Strangely, Sophie adored Victoria. She had a knack for languages at just 3, she coldly told me, "Mom doesn't spend time with me because it's your fault, Dad." I thought it was just childish talk. At 4, she met Julian, who had returned from abroad after his divorce. She told the nanny, "No wonder Mom likes Julian. I like him too. Uncle Julian is way better than Dad. He's handsome and rich, always buys me tons of treats. Unlike Dad, who never lets me eat anything fun." Just because I wouldn't let her have too many sweets, she pouted angrily. I overheard her complaints from the kitchen, feeling uneasy. I gently said, "Sophie, Dad will make you new candy, pear and hawthorn candy. Delicious and healthy." But she grabbed the candy I made and threw it in the trash, shouting, "I don't want your garbage. I want the fancy candy Uncle Julian brought from Italy. I want cavities." I stared at her, stunned. At that moment, I realized how much Victoria's daughter resembled her. Both were unresponsive to my warmth. Especially on her 5th birthday. Both mother and daughter invited Julian. While lighting the candles, I suddenly heard the system's long-absent voice. "Host, long time no see. I'm back. Your mission is complete. You have enough points to return. You can also choose to stay, after all, you have a family now. In the original world, you were all alone." As I hesitated, Sophie made the decision for me. Just as I stepped back into the hall, I heard her birthday wish. Her voice was clear and loud, without any regard for me. "Can Mom and Dad divorce? I want Uncle Julian to be my dad." Everyone was stunned. Victoria just frowned slightly and said, "Make another wish." Julian teased her, "You can't say that. Did you get your dad's permission to switch dads? You'll get a spanking." But his eyes were filled with pride. I smiled and turned to the system. "Take me home. I don't want to wait another second." But the system hit me with bad news. Since the central system had too many second and third-time transmigrators, there's now a cooling-off period for leaving the system. I was stunned. The system cleared its throat and said, "Just like a human divorce cooling-off period, you need to wait." I blurted out, "Wait for what? Damn it." The system reminded me to use civilized language, so I restrained myself and asked, "How long?" 3 years. 3 years. System, are you kidding? Wait until all the veggies in your garden wither. The system paused for a moment and said, "Host, your insults are pretty creative." After 3 seconds of silence, it continued, "As compensation for your long absence, I'll increase your points by 1/3. When you wake up from your vegetative state, your body will be completely healthy. Fine then. I'll finalize the divorce first." That's why I was standing in Victoria's office. "Victoria, let's get a divorce." Victoria looked up, staring straight into my eyes, and mockingly asked, "Caleb, have you forgotten? I was the one you begged 5 years ago to keep Sophie, saying if I didn't, you'd die." Those were my words. That year, when Victoria heard about Julian's marriage, she drank all night and, heartbroken, came to me. She said, "Caleb, look at me. Why am I not good enough for Julian? Why did he marry someone else? If he could marry another woman, I can find another man. Caleb, you like me, don't you? You've waited for me, right?" I nodded, and we kissed passionately. That night, despite precautions, she accidentally got pregnant with Sophie. Her first reaction was to have an abortion because she didn't want a child to be a burden. If Julian came back, the child would be an obstacle between them. But then the system spoke, saying, "If you abort now, it means mission failure, and you know the consequences." Driven by the system and my own deep desires, I pleaded, "If the baby dies, so will I. I swear I'll take care of both of you for life." Without my plea, Sophie would never have been born. Victoria didn't care about me or Sophie. She only cared about one person, Julian. He had lived with her in the orphanage and saved her. Victoria always wanted to marry just Julian. The day her biological father took her from the orphanage, she cried and begged Julian to wait until she could marry him. So, she always held on to her feelings for Julian. However, the next news she got about him was his marriage. Much later, I learned that Victoria agreed to my proposal and decided to keep the child not because she believed my words, but because of something Julian said. He told her, "Victoria, why do you think you deserve me to wait for you forever?" I looked at Victoria's beautiful face but thought, I hope I never see her again. I said calmly, "Since both you and your daughter like Julian, after the divorce, you can form a new family. Everyone will be happy, right?" Victoria smiled at me, but I could see the disdain and arrogance beneath her smile. "Caleb, aren't you being hypocritical? Do you think this will make me beg for you? You really disgust me. Also, the child is mine. You tricked me into having her. From the moment you threatened me with divorce, you lost your right to be a father. So if you want me to sign the divorce papers, it's simple, you must promise never to come near my daughter again. Never to see her. This would have been a fatal blow to me because love makes one vulnerable. After all, she is my only relative, my only daughter. But now, I don't care about anyone, so I have no vulnerabilities." Under her contemptuous gaze, I replied calmly, "Fine." She was taken aback, her eyes darkening. She grabbed a pen and quickly signed the agreement, then threw a copy at me. I picked it up and turned to leave. Victoria bit her lip and said, "Caleb, take your lies and get far away. Never come back." I responded, "Fine." My emotions were strangely steady, but then I paused and smiled, asking her, "We haven't received the divorce certificate yet, and you haven't paid the compensation." "I won't leave. Please pay in advance." "Thanks." Victoria's face turned red. Reluctantly, she signed a check. Watching Caleb leave the office without looking back, Victoria felt an inexplicable panic. Just then, Chloe, her secretary and close friend for many years, walked in with some documents. "Victoria, is Caleb asking for a divorce?" Victoria nodded without replying. Chloe took the document somewhat despondently and smiled. "It's just a fight. Caleb won't really divorce. He loves you and the child so much, how could he bear to leave you?" Victoria frowned slightly and said, "Whether he leaves or not, he has no right to show me attitude. Everything he has is because of the Sterling family. If he really wants a divorce, I'll make Sophie change her surname to Sterling." Chloe smiled, put down the documents, and left. The office suddenly became eerily quiet. For some reason, Victoria kept recalling Caleb's departing figure, which felt unfamiliar. It wasn't the Caleb she remembered. She couldn't help but recall that night, the first time under him. Victoria felt nervous and scared, her eyes red, her voice trembling. Caleb had said things she didn't understand. "Victoria, I'm not just here to conquer you. I genuinely like you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this with you. I'll stay here, treat you well. Please treat me well too." Although she didn't understand, she inexplicably felt at ease, no longer scared. She intertwined her fingers with his and kissed him. Over the years, Caleb was always gentle and considerate. The only thing that disgusted her was forcing her to keep the child, ruining her future with Julian. He absurdly said, "If the child is gone, the mission will fail, and I won't exist." She had to retaliate against him, so for 5 years, she never showed him a good face. After all, he was homeless and would stay with her till death. His wish echoed in her ears again, "Victoria, I want a cute child, the 3 of us living in a cozy home." No, she never wanted a family. She never had one since childhood, her father only found her to use her as a pawn in marriage alliances. Unable to marry Julian, she married a low-level employee, but she would never follow her father's arrangements. The day Caleb asked for a divorce, she couldn't stay at the office and went home early. "Where is Caleb?" The nanny whispered, "He moved out this afternoon." Victoria felt even more panicked inside but didn't show it. She just sneered. "He's quite convincing." Then she walked into her bedroom, ignoring everything else. After getting the divorce agreement, I went home, packed a few things, and was ready to leave. Sophie was sitting in the living room playing on her tablet with a candy in her mouth. Colorful wrappers were scattered all over the floor. She glanced at me and said flatly, "Mom lets me eat these. Uncle Julian gave them to me, so mind your own business." I smiled. "I won't mind at all. You can eat 100 if you like." I squatted down and pinched her cheek. "If you get cavities, it's your problem, not mine." "Sophie, I'm leaving." "Where to?" "To make room for your new dad. I won't come back here anymore." Sophie frowned, her expression just like her mother's. "Dad, you're talking nonsense. Mom says you're an orphan. Without clinging to her, you have nowhere else to go. Dad, you're so useless as a dad. You're such a failure. No one in this family likes you or needs you. Uncle Julian would never be so pathetic, always working or circling around the kid at home. It's so annoying. Dad, you should leave. I won't miss you." She lowered her head and continued playing her game. Watching her indifferent back, I felt a pang of hurt. Before, I would often ask her carefully what she was playing, if she'd teach me, if I could play with her. I, a grown man, played girls' games, tea parties, and role-playing, sacrificing so much time just to spend time with her. But all I got in return was her disdain. Any slight disagreement led to her tantrums and sulking. Now, I don't care anymore. Whoever wants to care can go ahead. All right, Sophie. I hope you can keep that tough mouth of yours. With that, I dragged my suitcase out the door. The warm sunlight stung my eyes as a phrase flashed in my mind, "Live towards the sun." Since I only had to wait 3 years, I quit my job, took the compensation, and settled down, renting an apartment in a nice community. No need to buy, I couldn't take it with me after 3 years anyway. The community was beautiful, and from my window, I could see the sea. But I could also see people walking into the sea. A little boy, alone, slowly approaching the waves. Instinctively, I ran downstairs in my slippers, crossed a road and a green belt to the beach. I picked up the little guy. "Where are your parents?" The boy was about 3, with big round eyes like grapes. His eyes were wet as if he had just cried, but he didn't say a word, just tightly clutched his clothes. "Noah." A woman walked over, her long hair flowing like a waterfall in the sea breeze. She had a fresh, natural look with a gentle smile. I hadn't noticed her earlier, sitting on a hammock under a tree, watching him. "Thank you, but don't worry," she said. "He wouldn't dare go further." I was watching. The woman approached to take the boy. "Noah, come home with mommy." But the boy clung to my pants. With his chubby mouth, he said, "Hug." The woman was surprised and smiled. This is the first time Noah has asked a stranger to hug him. I rubbed the little guy's head. Since I had nothing better to do, I carried him back to the community. It turned out they lived next door. The woman thought for a moment and said, "Mr. Reed, Noah seems to like you. I know you're single and currently not working. It's just me and my son. I'm a doctor, and I often bake. If you're willing." I quickly handed the boy back. I interrupted her, saying, "Miss, if you're interested in me, just say it. You look like a model with your height and long legs, and your fair skin and beauty make you look like a celebrity. Why are you acting like a stalker? How did you find out so much about me?" She looked stunned and said, "Mr. Reed, I wanted to ask if you could help look after Noah for a while. I just fired his nanny for mistreating him, and I need someone to watch him until I find a new nanny. I saw how you cared for children, so I thought I'd ask. I can make you some treats in return." I was speechless. What a misunderstanding. But then I thought again and asked, "How did you find out so much about me?" She replied, "Well, I know your information because I'm your landlord." After confirming her identity, it was true. I felt so embarrassed, but I'm someone who can admit mistakes and adapt, so I said, "Miss, I apologize for being creepy." Regarding her request, I considered it for a moment and planned to refuse. After all, taking care of children is troublesome. I used to take care of Sophie because I was her biological father and mother. I wanted to make up for my own unfulfilled experiences, filling the void in my heart by taking care of her. But now, taking care of another child is something I can't do. Kids at this age love to run around, and I can't afford to take responsibility if something happens. However, the next second she said, "You can name your price." So I said, "Sure. When do I start?" There was no way to refuse. The child's pitiful eyes were too hard to turn down, and I couldn't bear to reject such a lonely mother and son. Unlike my daughter, he was very quiet and didn't talk much. I took care of him with the same dedication and effort as I did my daughter, so he often sat obediently on his little stool watching me play video games. Every time I won, he clapped his little hands and praised me, saying, "Brother Reed is amazing. Brother Reed is the best. Brother Reed dominates the game." Audrey looked on speechlessly. I explained to her, I had him call me Brother Reed because it's better to be friends with kids, not enemies. Noah chimed in, "Brother Reed is my best friend." "Mom, don't worry, I'll take care of him. You go to work." Sometimes while playing, I would zone out for a moment. Sophie never did this. She always complained, "Dad, this is boring. Draw me a picture. Dad, your drawing is ugly, I don't like it. This isn't what I wanted." Then she tore up the little hamster I had spent half an hour drawing for her. Noah, on the other hand, was much easier to get along with. The only strange thing about him was that he often called out for his parents in his sleep. He woke up with his eyes wet every time. I would wipe away his tears. He would look at me embarrassed and say, "Mom always says boys shouldn't cry. Am I being silly?" I would tell him, "Everyone gets sad, and when you're sad, you cry. If happiness doesn't distinguish between genders, neither does crying." After saying that, I would give him a pear and hawthorn lollipop I made. He would put it in his mouth, and his eyes would squint into crescent moons with satisfaction. He would give me a fruity kiss. When his mom, Audrey, came home from work, he would show off, "Mom, Brother Reed's candy is much better than yours." Sometimes he'd be reluctant to finish it all at once, taking small bites slowly. I laughed, "Eat up, Noah. If you like it, I'll make more. But don't forget to brush your teeth." The things Sophie despised were treasures to someone else. Before the divorce, my life revolved around Sophie. Even with a nanny at home, I'd worry every half hour at work about whether Sophie had hurt herself. Maybe it was because I had Noah's company during these days apart, I rarely thought about Sophie or anything related to Victoria. Instead, the butler contacted me several times. "Miss Sophie isn't used to sleeping without your bedtime stories. She'll get used to it. Miss Sophie has a toothache. Will you come back to be with her?" No, I'm not a dentist. A few days later, I unexpectedly ran into Sophie. Audrey went out of town for a conference and asked me to pick up and drop off Noah for a few days. But I overlooked the fact that Noah's new kindergarten was the same as Sophie's. I carried Noah out of the car and just dropped him off. Then I ran into Sophie and Victoria. With a cold expression, still sitting in the car, Sophie opened her mouth wanting to call out, "Dad," but the words stuck in her throat. Even though we were divorced, she was still my daughter, a familiar face, so I greeted her. "Hey, Sophie." But she didn't respond, running into the classroom like an angry pufferfish. The woman in the car, my ex-wife Victoria, was also a familiar face, but I had no intention of greeting her. Unexpectedly, she spoke first. "Caleb, didn't you firmly agree not to see Sophie anymore? It's only been a few days, and you can't hold back." I laughed angrily and said, "Are you crazy? Does your family own this kindergarten? You can come, but I can't. If you want to see Sophie, why don't you just transfer her to another school tomorrow?" I couldn't be bothered with her. Victoria scoffed behind me. "Caleb, keep pretending." Caleb had been away for over a month. Victoria didn't understand. Such an ordinary man, a substitute, someone dispensable, why did the house feel so empty without him? Sophie often cried. She clung to the housekeeper asking, "When will Dad come home?" She couldn't quite figure out her feelings for Sophie. Maybe it was because she was abandoned at a garbage dump as a child, so she didn't know how to be a mother to a child. "Stop crying. You look ugly when you cry." Sophie hiccuped through her tears. "Mom, can you tell me a bedtime story?" "No. You don't have to sleep if you don't want to." Sophie was taken aback. In the end, Victoria sat by Sophie's little bed and told her a story. The more Victoria read, the more frustrated she felt. She should be getting her beauty sleep. Why was she sitting here reading a children's book? With a snap, she closed the book. Lights off. Sleep or don't, I don't care. Anyway, I'm not going to keep reading. Sophie pouted but reluctantly slid under the covers. For the first time since the divorce, Victoria felt a bit unsettled. This frustration stayed with her until she saw Caleb at Sophie's kindergarten a few days later. The annoyance in her heart seemed to lessen a bit. She thought, how could he leave his daughter? She was his only family, and he purposely picked the rare time she brought Sophie to school. He was just stubborn and prideful. He could have had a good life but insisted on a divorce. So she took Sophie out of school, not letting her go to kindergarten. She wanted Caleb to make a wasted trip. Want to see the child? Fine, come and beg her. But 3 days later, Butler Alfred hesitantly said, Sir Caleb still goes to kindergarten every day. It seems he's taking someone else's child to school. He hasn't specifically come to see Miss Sophie. Victoria was taken aback. In the 3rd month of my time with Noah, Audrey hired a gentle ant to take care of him. Out of habit, I helped out when I could. Having someone praise me while playing games was just too pleasant. Audrey often cooked for me. Maybe it was a habit from her profession as a doctor. She would debone fish before cooking it or remove bones from meat before boiling it. But it tasted pretty good, though I always felt a bit weird eating it. After dinner, Noah would habitually play with magnetic blocks on the small table in the living room. We sat on the sofa and chatted. There was an inexplicable peacefulness to it. I couldn't help but ask. Noah often calls out for his parents in his sleep. Did you do something to upset him, making him cry in his dreams? Audrey said softly, Noah's parents passed away in an accident last year. He needs time to adjust. I was stunned. Then who are you? A human trafficker. Audrey couldn't help but laugh. What are you thinking? I'm his biological aunt. After my brother passed away, I adopted him and raised him as my son to avoid people's strange looks outside. I patted her. You're really kind. Audrey suddenly leaned in close, her legs almost pressed against my hand. I instinctively withdrew my hand, but when I looked up, I met her bright almond-shaped eyes, which made my heart race. I could even smell her faint fragrance. She said, Caleb, do you think a single mom like me can find a man who likes her? Of course you can. You're beautiful, gentle, and kind-hearted. Do you like me? I was speechless. The conversation had shifted too quickly. I instinctively said, why not? Audrey shook her head. Men shouldn't say they can't. I sighed and continued, in 3 years, I have to go back home. Audrey's smile faded. She looked a bit forlorn. Caleb, can't you forget your ex-wife? I laughed. How could I? She's getting married. Audrey's eyelashes fluttered, and her eyes brightened. Really? Should I send her a big gift to congratulate her on her wedding? I was taken aback. Audrey, why are you so excited about my ex-wife getting married? You're acting like it's your ex-husband getting married. Nearly half a year had passed. There was no sign of me softening up. It seemed I had left decisively and cleanly, as if I had disappeared from her world. At first, Victoria didn't care much and didn't think about me often, although Sophie often stared blankly at the wooden dolls I made. But the nannies took good care of her, so she thought, I really didn't like that man at all. But Julian's hint made her inexplicably anxious. He said, Victoria, if you were to choose a ring, would you like a pink diamond? Rumors spread that Victoria was going to marry Julian. She couldn't help but think, did Caleb hear about it? Would Caleb misunderstand and never come back? Actually, Julian was someone she had liked for a long time. From her memories, maybe childhood memories were deeply ingrained. Back then, she had just arrived at the orphanage, thin and weak. She looked like a little kitten ready to be bullied. She was often harassed by the kids there. One day, she was beaten badly. Julian called the headmaster, and a group of kids scattered. Julian handed her a piece of fruit candy with a smile. Here, it's very sweet. Yes, it was very sweet, the sweetest candy she had ever had. As a child, she never doubted that Julian was the person she loved the most. but a corner of her heart was subtly dissenting. For instance, she was inexplicably driven to visit my place. Unexpectedly, she watched me, a pretty woman, and a lively little boy walk into the community with smiles. She recognized the woman, surprised, but she still held onto a sliver of hope, refusing to think about what might be happening. So when I came out alone, she stopped me, smiling and teasing, "Husband, why haven't you come home for so long? Are you secretly seeing someone else?" Saying this, she reached out to hold my arm. I was stunned, instinctively pushed her hand away, frowned, and said, "Nothing. Shouldn't I be happy you came? Why didn't I take the chance you gave?" Seeing my silence, Victoria felt inexplicably wronged. "Caleb, if I were really done with you, I wouldn't have come back. If you still want Sophie, come back yourself. Otherwise, if I accept Julian's proposal, you won't have another chance." My expression was as calm as when I asked for a divorce in her office half a year ago. "Congratulations, Miss Sterling." "Thank you, Miss Sterling, for going out of your way to personally invite me to the wedding." Victoria felt a strange pain in her heart. A fire of anger instantly ignited, her face turned red, and she said without thinking, "Caleb, do you think you've struck gold?" I was taken aback. "What do you mean?" Victoria sneered. "Audrey Kensington, the young lady of the Northwood City Kensington family. When you mention her, I remember that the Kensington family often caused trouble for the Sterling family, using their political background to create issues. Half of the disputes our legal department handled were due to their machinations. She may seem like a small doctor, but she's actually the daughter of the Kensington family. Do you think she'd marry a divorcee like you?" I frowned. "So what if I'm divorced? Aren't you divorced too? Isn't your dear brother Julian also divorced? Does that stop you from chasing after him?" "Victoria, I know how your family has always viewed me. But look at yourself, married and thinking about other men, divorced and seeking your ex-husband. Do you still fantasize that you're some pure maiden saving yourself for your first love? Do you think you're a princess everyone has to adore? Even after divorce, do you think I should still be devoted to you? Victoria, I need to ask you, do you think you've struck gold? Do you think Julian is the light of your life? Go back and check, you might not even know what disease you've caught. You and Julian are actually a perfect match." Victoria's face turned beet red, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, and she bit her lip without speaking. I felt oddly satisfied. Ignoring her shock, I turned and left. Unexpectedly, I ran into Audrey, who had been eavesdropping for who knows how long. I cleared my throat. "I'm usually very nice, not like this. Do you believe me?" Audrey nodded. "I believe you." As we walked, we exchanged a knowing smile. I asked her, "Why are you smiling?" "Caleb, you were quite impressive with your scolding. Of course, I think you made a lot of sense." I had to admit, being praised by a beautiful woman, especially one interested in me, greatly satisfied my vanity. I quickened my pace. Audrey followed leisurely. "Caleb, the most important thing is that my marriage is my choice, unrelated to your family. Caleb, did you hear that?" A week before Victoria's wedding, Sophie unexpectedly came to see me with the housekeeper accompanying her. Sophie was almost 8 years old. She had lost her baby fat and grown taller, looking more and more like Victoria. "Hi, Sophie." Her eyes were slightly red. "Dad. Did your mother agree to you coming?" I knew that without Victoria's permission, the housekeeper wouldn't dare bring Sophie here. Sophie nodded. "Dad, do you completely not want me anymore?" I smiled. "Dad never didn't want you. It was always you who didn't want Dad. Then why don't you come home?" I sighed. "I divorced your mother, and divorce means not living together." Sophie turned her head, looking down at the floor. "Can't you come back for me? How can you say you don't want me? Sophie, why should I come back for you?" Although Sophie was young, she was very smart. I didn't treat her like a small child in our conversations because she understood. I once made a mistake thinking I was doing good for others, including you and Victoria. But isn't that a kind of moral coercion? I thought accompanying you was good for you, but you didn't need my company. I thought not letting you eat candy was good for you to prevent cavities, but you didn't care about cavities. To be good to someone, you must first know what they like. If I like peaches and you give me apples, is that being good to me? It's not. Meeting the needs of others is truly being good to them, not fulfilling what I think they need. Even if one day you get cavities and regret it, thinking I was good to you back then doesn't change the fact that when you didn't care, I wasn't good to you. So a person must first understand what they want, understand what others want. I have to live for myself first before I can care for others, otherwise, it's just self-sacrificing sentimentalism. Compared to your interests, I now care more about my interests. What good does it do me to be good to you? Why wouldn't I be good to those who are good to me? So I won't come back because of you. If you need child support, have your mother contact my lawyer. Sophie seemed to understand a bit, lowering her head in frustration and staying silent. A knock suddenly came at the door. When I opened it, a small shadow shot into my arms. Reed. Reed. I want some pear candy. Noah saw Sophie and blinked. Reed, is this beautiful girl your daughter? I nodded with a smile. Noah grabbed a handful of pear candy from the table and handed it to Sophie. Sister, eat this. Reed makes it really well. It's healthy and delicious, much better than the fancy candies you buy outside. Sophie took the candy and suddenly started crying. Dad, I'm sorry. I knew you remembered throwing away the candy I made with my own hands as garbage. Sometimes things thrown away by hand are hard to retrieve. Love. Victoria married Julian, and the wedding was unprecedentedly grand and luxurious, trending on Northwood City's hot search. In the pictures, Julian was beaming with joy, but Victoria's smile was forced. Sophie, dressed in an exquisite little dress as the flower girl, wore an expression identical to her mother's. However, the birthday wish she made when she was 5 finally came true. I can only say, daughter, you must face the wishes you make yourself. Strangely enough, Victoria's wedding made Audrey and Noah the happiest. The mother and son insisted on taking me to the villa for a vacation. Caleb, there's a beautiful starry sky over there, and we can set off fireworks. Noah happily spun in circles. I love watching fireworks the most. Seeing Noah gradually emerge from the shadow of losing his parents, becoming happier day by day, made me quite happy as well. Under the night sky, we ate hot pot and sliced watermelon. The stars in the sky were countless, fireflies with their glowing tails flew around, and frogs croaked in the nearby pond. This is the kind of life I wanted. I thought as Noah handed me a slice of watermelon. He said, Brother Reed, your ex-wife got married. Are you sad? I nearly choked on the watermelon. Who told you to ask that? Mom didn't tell me to ask. I asked myself. Audrey's slender body trembled slightly. Brother Reed, don't be sad. You still have us. Even if that pretty sister calls someone else dad, you still have me. Can I be your son from now on? I'll call you Brother Reed, and you can call me son. How about that? I scratched my head, thinking it didn't sound too bad. I pinched his chubby little face and said, what else do you want to say? Just say it all at once. Noah cleared his throat like an adult. If you think having me as your son isn't enough, I'll give you my mom as your wife. This time, my hand shook a bit. This kid is something else. Noah, worried the scene wasn't awkward enough, loudly asked, Mom, can you do this job? Can you be Brother Reed's wife? Audrey softly replied, But her ears turned slightly red. Then she looked up at the sky, at Noah, at the trees and flowers, but didn't dare look at me. Noah jumped up happily, running around Audrey and shouting, Mom, you're my sister-in-law now. I have a dad again.